Well, good morning. I'm Jeff Coleman.
And I'm Debra Pinkerton. Welcome to Morning Light. We would like to ask you to lift up one of our panelists in prayer this morning.
Well, you know, Pastor Dave Beiser, the senior pastor at Cross Point Church in Harrisburg, was scheduled to be a guest this week, but suffered a major heart attack on Monday morning. Yesterday, he posted his gratitude to the EMTs and the medical professionals who saved his life.
Yeah, the wonderful news is he is expected to make a full recovery. For now, he will be on light duty, but Pastor Beiser says doctors did give him the okay to preach on Sunday.
And we are saving his place on the panel when you feel up to it, Pastor Dave. Well, sociologists say one of the marks of healthy people is the number of times we eat together, but a major study shows Americans are increasingly dining alone. The results aren't good, but the Morning Light panel is ready with some answers and some hope.
Certainly. But first, here's a preview of what's coming up later in the show. Being the hands and feet of Jesus Christ. Friends in Action International believes God equips each and every one of us with skills to help share the gospel to those who need to hear it. Find out how you can get involved with this organization.
I don't think everybody believes that they're equipped, and I think that's why this conversation will be helpful.
Yes, we all are.
Well, Oxford University and Gallup released this year's World Happiness Report. The data was drawn from 235,000 adults over a 2-decade period. Researchers found 1 in 4 Americans now eats every meal alone. That is up 53% from 2003. The World Happiness Survey notes the shift in eating habits is connected to a rise in living alone, for some delayed marriage, and waiting longer to start a family. Nevertheless, it represents a sea change in American life habits. It's a very big difference in just 20 years.
It is, certainly. Well, unfortunately, this is the case in places like Japan and South Korea. They are near the bottom of the list. It is attributed to a rise in single-person households and the aging population. Now, near the top of the list, people living in Latin America and also Caribbean countries lead the world eating together. The report goes on to find that sharing a meal makes people feel happy. It also makes one feel more socially connected.
Agreed. And by the way, that lady is opening the door to an Eagles fan, just to be careful there.
Okay.
So what keeps the 75% of us who aren't eating alone from opening up our homes and our tables to practice hospitality? We've got room, don't we? Well, in her book, The Gospel Comes with a House Key, author Rosaria Butterfield writes of turning her suburban home into something of an open table, inviting neighbors with problems and hang-ups and addictions and maybe some criminal records to sit and eat and experience the love of Christians next door. So is it time to rethink our meal plans? Our Morning Light panel weighs in. Alex Kocman, Joe Slack, and Davis Younts. We are glad to have you at this table today. What is it about this moment in our history? Why do you think people are eating alone? What is it that has changed in America? Is it what sociologists are saying? Well, we're single, we're waiting longer to get married, so there aren't people. But we have really big homes, and we buy really big tables often now. That's kind of the definition of architecture today. What's happening?
I think there are a lot of different things we can attribute to it, but it's just the sense of busyness. I think it's the sense of not just, we don't take time in our lives to just pause and reflect enough anymore anyway. So we're just captured in a loop of constant entertainment, constant busyness, substituting that for productivity. And I think that's really what generates this. And I mean, I see it in our own lives, in my own home. Sometimes if we work from home, COVID changed things and changed those dynamics as well. So I think there's a lot of factors. I don't think there's one single factor, but I do think we need to take a step back and ask the question of how are we connecting with our families first and then with the people around us.
Okay. So there are people that would say, look, our family isn't even eating together. Why would we think about neighbors? Or is it in our head, do you think, Alex, that sometimes we think one day we'll invite the neighbor next door to our home? Or is it fear? What do you think the factors are that keep us from extending hospitality?
Yeah, I think partly the first thing that you said is a big factor. Families themselves aren't eating together anymore, so you really can't show that type of hospitality until you've ordered your household properly as well. That's one thing that we prioritize is family meal times together. You know, devices are away, people are coming to the table together.
So what's the routine? What does your home look like for family dinner?
Well, listen, we've got 4 kids under the age of 12.
Right.
So
it's a very quiet
routine
dinner.
is a very relative word, but it takes work, actually.
Okay.
And sometimes it's physically wrangling them to the table, but it's because we believe in that. And until we're willing to put that effort into hospitality within the household, we're not going to be in a position for the overflow of that to be hospitality and outreach into our communities, into our churches is another thing as well. There's multiple ways of showing hospitality. It's not just to the neighbor or the stranger. Start with your church members. Start with the people you know. Fan out from there.
Right. So get your house in order, and then look to your church and your extended faith family, and then maybe your neighbors. Yeah. So what does it look like in your neighborhood?
Yeah, we have a great neighborhood for connection, but our family runs into a lot of the same problems, right? We're really, really busy. I've shared on here before, we're in this foster care journey.
Yeah.
We have a fabulous team that supports us by bringing us a meal every week just to help out. And that's a wonderful thing, but we've had to take the extra step to be intentional. And so we've said, instead of just dropping off a meal, bring your family with you and stay and have dinner with us so that we can get to know you, so you can partner with us in this journey. It's starting to think creatively about ways to connect. So
and that's interesting because like the Meals on Wheels model, which founded as a Christian ministry, was about getting food to people who were alone, often shut-ins, but it didn't often include this idea of, oh, please come in and sit. That's the other piece of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Our communities are being flooded with immigrant populations. Whenever you're invited, obviously, into an immigrant home, that is not just a stop by and hello. It's a whole ritual of tea, of sweets, of a full meal, and it's a 2, 3, 4 hour exercise. Yes. I often hear, though, Joe, from them is they've never been invited into American homes. How do we change that equation for people that are culturally different from us, knowing things are going to look different, sound different, and there's going to be huge barriers?
Right. Well, to me, it starts with our own hearts and understanding that it's okay to not know everything and to have to learn. Right? I think a big obstacle in connecting cross-culturally there is this fear that we're going to do something offensive, or we're going to look silly, or we're not going to know what's going on. And so being able to start and say, hey, it's okay, I might mess something up. I might have to learn, I might have to ask questions.
Am I allowed to hug you? Am I allowed to shake hands?
It's okay if I don't understand this. And honestly, our children are doing a great job of this. My kids have a lot of diversity in their classes, and so several of their friends are from radically different cultures than here, and so it's been a wonderful learning experience for us.
Has that been good for your family?
It is, yeah, just to start to learn and start to understand, and just understanding that when they're getting picked up, it's going to be a different pickup process. If they invite us over, it's not just a couple minutes, it's going to take longer. And so it takes time to learn, and you have to be willing to say, I don't know, and I want to figure it out.
Let me read you what Rosaria Butterfield wrote in her wonderful book, The Gospel Comes with a House Key. She writes, radically ordinary hospitality is this: using your Christian home in a daily way that seeks to make strangers, neighbors, and neighbors part of the family of God. What is that vision? Is it practical, or is it entirely, because that sounds wonderful and idealistic, but it might sound very impractical. And then there's this whole circle of people who love young families and say, but you really don't want to invite that into your home because you don't know who you're inviting in. Yeah. They could be a predator. They could be. How do you overcome those fears?
I think those are legitimate concerns. Actually, even Rosaria Butterfield has clarified some of the comments she made in that book. She still holds to those principles of hospitality. That's how she became a Christian as well, but she's also seeing the situation our culture is in and just realizing, okay, hospitality isn't a magic silver bullet in order to win the lost. It's a piece of a strategy, and there's different seasons of life. There are people with different capacities, with, some people are 1 talent, 5 talent, 10 talent people, and so you do what you can. But, hospitality is more than just inviting people into your home. It can also be willing to be a guest in someone else's home, willing to carve out time in your schedule. It can mean not leaving church as soon as it's over to go to Bob Evans. It can actually be lingering for 10, 20, 30 minutes, having meaningful conversations with people. So I think weaving those intentional, relational postures and rhythms into the rest of your life, that can lead to a practice of hospitality. You might not be ready to take the full plunge and just have your household open up every single Friday or Saturday night, but take those small steps, put the phone down, take the AirPods out, be available for other people, and then opportunities will come out of that.
Dave's going to get very practical when we're thinking about the people in our audience. We know we have many shut-ins, people who are in assisted living facilities. I think this is a wonderful idea maybe for a young family, but my station in life means I'm eating alone. Is there a communication that they need to have with people around them to let them know that I would love to have somebody sit across the table from me? I mean, we're often very proud about not wanting to show vulnerability, to say this is really getting old, eating alone or eating the same thing, the same ramen noodle set or the same, eggs and toast. How do you encourage them to make that?
No, I think that's a great point. I think often people are in a scenario where they don't want to be an imposition on someone else, and they don't realize, wow, God could really use me to bless someone else. So I think reaching out, finding those opportunities, and growing up in Southern Baptist churches like I did, there was always that one family, right? There was this one older couple who, if you visited a church for the first time, they got first dibs on inviting you over for fried chicken or whatever it was. But they were empty nesters, right? But they took great joy in that. So they were serving people, but it was also a service to them. And I think that being willing to open ourselves up and practically invite people in is a great point.
The Goss family at our church the other day had our family over for lasagna, and it was the warmest experience that we've had in such a long time, because it was their recipe in their home, and it wasn't just providing a meal or a service, it was providing a relationship. So some real practical advice for people who are like, you know what, I feel guilty enough already. I don't want people to feel guilty for this conversation, but I do want to help them. Any advice?
There's a simple solution. Invite someone over.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult. But again, some of those smaller steps, you can't go from 0 to 100 as well. So be the type of person that has margin in your life for relationships, margin for interruption. And if you don't have that right now, then think, okay, what commitments do I need to say no to in order to make some of that room? And then go ahead, take the plunge, invite someone over. Prioritize family dinner first. If you have kids in the home, bring them to the table, devices down. Cultivate the type of home you want to invite someone into as well, and then take the plunge.
Devices down, boy.
Yeah.
Go ahead, your advice.
No, I agree with what you're saying, and I think start by looking at yourself and recognizing that it's okay to not have the answer in every situation. It's okay to not be perfect, and don't take yourself so seriously. Be willing to let people into your mess. We've all got that mess. We like to hide it. We like to pretend like it's not there, but we've all got that mess. And the sooner we can understand that God sees that mess, He knows that mess. He says we're still valuable and lovable and of great worth, and we can start taking ourselves a little less seriously, then we can open up our hearts and our homes to other people.
It doesn't have to be perfect before we invite them over. And there's always the front closet. You can shove everything in it. I'm not saying we do that in our very ordered home. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, coming up on Morning Light, to see every tribe, tongue, and nation declare Jesus as Lord. That's how Friends in Action International is bridging the gap between culture and community with the gospel. You're watching Morning Light right here on Lighthouse TV.
Welcome back. Have you been called for full-time or part-time missions? Friends in Action International could be an opportunity for you. Joining me is Andy Backer, Chief Operating Officer of this nonprofit. Andy, thanks for being with us. Remind us about Friends in Action International.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having us, Debra. Friends in Action is a nonprofit Christian mission organization based in Middletown, Pennsylvania, so we're local. And our focus is helping support missionaries and mission organizations using construction projects and service projects to help accelerate the gospel. We do that using volunteer teams to go around the world. We help accelerate the gospel to some of the hardest to reach places as well. That's kind of our niche, is to be able to go some of the places that some people don't have the resources to go. One of the neat things we really see happening is when we can go and help with infrastructure projects or service projects, the missionary on the ground can really focus on continuing their ministry. They don't have to be burdened with, how's my house going to get built? How's the well in the village going to get drilled? How is our solar going to get hooked up? Things like that. And that's where we can kind of come in behind the scenes and do all that. But yet the name of Jesus Christ can be accelerated because they can focus on that.
Tell us about your faith journey.
Yeah, that's quite a story. So for 30 plus years, I was in metal fabrication, welding and fabricating. I started right out of high school, fell in love with it, worked for a couple very well-known local companies, and just fell in love with working with my hands. I grew up in a Christian home. I went to church every week. But as I succeeded in those areas and got into executive management of some of the companies, I was really focused on my identity. What could I do to succeed? What can I do to make more money, to help the family, and to things like that. So it was really, my identity was in me and what I can do. In 2021, God made it real to me when I lost my job. For the first time ever in my career, I lost a job. And I just felt, I was just come back from a missions trip. I was super excited about the missions trip 3 days after I got the news. So it was kind of heart-wrenching at first. But then I'm like, okay, God, I was praying in West Africa when I was there, how can I help take my skills and make them more real? How can I find an identity in you? Well, that's all I had to do was ask God to do that, and 3 days later, that's what happened when I got home. So it's really the best of both worlds. Long story short, in 2021, my wife and I accepted the opportunity to be missionaries at Friends in Action. We are self-supported missionaries, so we raise our support, which again, shifting from the for-profit success entrepreneurial world into raising your own support was quite a faith journey just in that alone. But God was good, and in 2022, January of 2022, I started full-time as COO of Friends in Action International, where God really had a perfect thing set up, because now I can still do construction, I can still do welding. That's what I was just doing in Vanuatu a few weeks ago. But yet I can do the executive management, I can do the leadership training and things at headquarters as COO. So God really had something great, and I was looking for good, but God removed that good and gave me something great.
Yeah, that's an amazing story. I know my pastor talks about being on mission, and we need to pray about our mission, and yours was pretty apparent.
Yeah.
How do you know that God is with you every step of the way?
Well, that's an interesting question. I appreciate you asking. Sometimes I don't feel like he is, but I know he is. But it's our own sinful nature that wants to develop and do things on our own. But time and time again, my wife and I have found, not just in the support raising, but in projects or difficulties at headquarters or things like that come up, we try to first conquer them on our own, and then God makes it real to us that he's here and he'll provide if we just let him. So oftentimes we have to remind ourselves, just open up our hands and let God. God's in control. And then we realize that, wow, what were we trying to do? Whether that's a need that's met or someone comes and ministers to us as individuals or as staff, God always has provided. And just I lose track of the God stories that I have personally and for the organization, where we see him every time.
Yep, God is in control.
Yeah.
For our parents, grandparents who are watching, who say, hey, I think my son or daughter or grandchild may be interested in getting into the missions field. What type of guidance or advice can you give them?
So that's interesting. I would say support them in that process, whether it is engaging at your local church with maybe a local missionary, or just talk to your pastoral staff about their heart for missions and want to explore that. Friends in Action actually had a successful internship program for the first year last year. We took on a student locally through his gap year, and he was able to actually travel on one of the international trips with us. So over the summer, he did an internship with us. It was very successful. So there's opportunities for young adults or youngsters to come and volunteer at headquarters. So introduce your children to either your local church, missionary staff, or bring them by our headquarters in Middletown. I'd love to meet them and introduce them and just share my story with them too.
Yeah, I loved hearing your story. Andy, we do need to take a break, but we do want to talk about some different events that are going to be coming up in the next couple of months, so stay with us. Coming up next, we will learn more about Friends in Action International and the events coming up in the next couple of months. Stay with us. We're back in 1 minute. We just heard about the mission of Friends in Action International. Back with me is Andy Backer, Chief Operating Officer with this nonprofit, to talk about some upcoming events. So Andy, tell us about the main mission of Friends in Action International?
Yeah, thanks for asking. A lot of times mission, when you talk about missionaries, you think it's the Bible evangelists or the church planners that go out. They may be older because they're retired. So oftentimes when somebody looks at me or a lot of our staff, they're like, you're a missionary. So our main mission at Friends in Action is to accelerate the gospel through infrastructure construction service projects. We recognize that God does send out evangelists and church planners. I'm not one of them. I'm more hands-on, and that's what I enjoy about Friends in Action. But to accelerate the gospel means that when a national pastor's out there and needs to get into a village, say an area in West Africa where we drill wells, the only way that he'll get invited into a village is to be able to offer them something. If we can come in and tell the national pastor, we'll be able to drill a well in your village, that'll give you the avenue to go in and share the gospel. So that's a really quick explanation of how we accelerate by being invited into villages, by bringing clean, fresh water to those villages, allowing the pastor to have the forum to preach the gospel in some of the hardest reached places there in West Africa.
Yeah, certainly making a difference. So tell us about some fundraisers that you have coming up.
Yeah,
because it does take fundraisers and it does take volunteers.
It does. We are fully funded by fully funded by donors and grants and things like that. So yeah, as a nonprofit, that is always a thing that we're working on throughout the year. So an upcoming opportunity that we have in October is our annual banquet. It's kind of our annual big event that we invite people to, whether they're volunteers or we invite friends or people that need to or want to know more about Friends in Action. It's a great banquet, great food, great speakers. This year in October, on October 23rd, we're going to be at Community Bible Church located in Marietta, Pennsylvania. We'll have our first banquet there on Thursday the 23rd. And then on Friday the 24th of October, we're going to be at Lebanon Valley Bible Church. And we'll have the same banquet. So if you can't make the one night, please come to the other night. We're actually going to have a keynote speaker this year from another mission organization, the Joshua Project. So Chris Kocman from the Joshua Project, he's the executive director there, and we recognized that they have such a heart for the hard-to-reach areas and the unreached people groups. They have a great opportunity to do the research and share and make awareness of who are those unreached people groups. Well, that's right in alignment with what we do. We want to reach the unreached in the hard-to-reach places. So we invited Chris to come and share his passion for the unreached people group and learn about how many unreached people groups there still are and the real need to meet those people with the relationship with Jesus Christ.
And if you can't attend one of the banquets or if you don't live in our central Pennsylvania, there is another opportunity in November. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so we have our All In Give event. It's on November 21st. It's a one-day, 24-hour giving event. It's where we reach out to current donors and ask them to ask a friend, kind of like peer-to-peer. To give that day, we do a lot of Facebook Live. We do some recorded videos. It's really an online giving event. You can mail in your donations, but it's really focused on communicating with us that day. We have people on staff. We have people out at different sites, getting people excited about that day. We have a lot of fun. Myself and our communications director and our whole staff, my executive director, we have a great time that day. Just really, we get excited about that all-a-day giving event, and then we actually follow the thermometer of giving that day to encourage people to continue giving. Our goal is $50,000, and praise the Lord, for the last 2 years we have exceeded that goal. Wow. So we just have a great core group of donors, and they love what we do. They're passionate about what we do, so we see them sharing with their friends too to expand the gospel.
And volunteers.
Yeah.
Always needed, right?
Yeah, volunteers are always needed. That's how we run. We have volunteer work teams that go out. That's all of our work teams. They raise support to go out on these work teams. So they're all people that volunteer. A lot of our people that come into our headquarters to work, whether it's in our shipping department, our warehouse, or in our office. We have mailings. We have the ladies that come in and stuff envelopes. We have grounds crews. We have people that come and mow the grass. They whack the weeds and do the flower beds. There's always opportunities to volunteer, whether it's domestically or internationally. We also do do some domestic trips, recognizing that not everybody can go to the other side of the world. Not everybody can travel, or maybe the finances, they don't have the finance to travel. So we do partner with a few mission organizations domestically here in the United States where we can go and work on their facilities and just help with infrastructure there, because we recognize that they have the same alignment of gospel ministry that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. All trying to promote and to spread the gospel.
That's right.
Thank you so much for being with us, Andy.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
To learn more about Friends in Action International or to participate in an upcoming event, check out FIAINTL.org. Stay with us. We are back right after the break. Welcome back. The memorial service for Charlie Kirk will be held on Sunday. This comes after he was shot and killed 1 week ago. Many are struggling with what happened. We will talk with Pastor David Smith with how to move forward from this tragic event. And that's a look at what's coming up tomorrow on Morning Light. Now, Jeff, your closing thoughts.
Well, thank you, Debra. Well, my daughter Anna is a sophomore at Liberty University. She's an accounting major. Now, Anna and I, unlike her mom, are not naturally gifted with math, and the leap to accounting is a pretty steep one. But in the area she's feeling called to serve, an accounting degree could be pretty helpful. Anna keeps in touch with us throughout the day. And after a tough outcome on one of her accounting tests this past week, she visited her professor for some help on how to improve and understand the concepts. The advice from her professor might be some of the most encouraging I've ever heard. Professor said, "You can do well in accounting, but studying and tutors just won't be enough. God wants to teach us through all of this, in all things, to depend on Him fully. Not to just put the work in or trust our ability to plan, but relying on Him for understanding, to make things that are complex plain. So when the grades go up, no one else gets the credit but Him." In accounting and in life, it's not our best God is looking for, but total trust, complete reliance on Him. Thanks to that wise professor for the reminder. For Debra and the entire Morning Light team, I'm Jeff Kocman. Thanks for watching today. Now go check on your neighbors, and then we'll meet back here, God willing, tomorrow morning.